Every empire leaves a record. Some records were never meant to be found. This is file No. 006. Somewhere in a museum case in Heraklion, on the island of Crete, there is a disc of baked clay the size of a dinner plate. It has been stared at by cryptographers, linguists, priests of a dozen theories, and computer algorithms for over 100 years. And it has told no one anything. Human beings have cracked Egyptian hieroglyphs. We broke Linear B, the script of these same Bronze Age Greeks. We read the wedge marks of Babylon and the glyphs of the Maya. The record of the ancient world has, one lock at a time, been forced open. This object defeats all of them, not because it is complex, but because there is only one of it. And that, as the archive will show, may be the most unbreakable condition of all. The coordinates first. The place is Phaistos, a Minoan palace on the southern coast of Crete, a Bronze Age civilization that flourished centuries before Homer, before Athens. The conventional date for the object is around 1700 BCE. The people we call the Minoans did not call themselves that. The name was invented in 1900 by the British archaeologist Arthur Evans after the legendary King Minos. Understand the world that made this. This was a palace economy. The Minoans grew barley and wheat, pressed olives for oil, fermented wine, and ran their storerooms on giant clay jars called pithoi, tall as a man. They traded across the sea. Cretan goods reached Egypt and the Levant. They kept accounts in a script we call Linear A, still undeciphered, and later in Linear B, which we did crack, and which turned out to record an early form of Greek. This was a literate, bureaucratic, seafaring world of scribes and inventories. Bronze tools, frescoes of dolphins and leaping bulls. Now the discovery. In July 1908, the Italian archaeologist Luigi Pernier was excavating the Phaistos Palace. In a basement room, in a deposit that also held a tablet inscribed in Linear A, he lifted out a single disc of fired clay, roughly 16 centimeters across, stamped on both faces with signs running in a spiral toward the center. And here is the detail that stops every historian in their tracks. The signs were not scratched, or drawn, or carved by hand. They were stamped, pressed into the wet clay with pre-made punches, one seal per symbol, like a set of physical stamps pressed in sequence. This makes the Phaistos Disc, by the record, the earliest known object produced with movable, reusable type, roughly 3,000 years before Gutenberg. Whoever made it owned a set of these punches, which raises a question the archive keeps in the margin. If you carve a whole alphabet of stamps, you don't intend to write once. So where is everything else they printed? Let us do what a cryptographer does. Let us count. The disc carries 241 sign impressions in total. Those 241 impressions are drawn from just 45 distinct symbols. The signs are grouped into small clusters, separated by hand-drawn vertical lines. Clusters that look to the eye like words. 45 distinct signs is a meaningful number. It is too many to be an alphabet like ours. An alphabet runs 20 to 30 signs. It is far too few to be a fully pictographic system like Chinese, which needs thousands. 45 sits precisely in the range of a syllabary, a script where each sign is a syllable. For comparison, Linear B, the script we successfully read, has roughly this many syllabic signs, so the structure is not alien. On paper, this looks readable, and this is the trap. This is exactly why the disc has consumed careers. It looks like it should yield. Over the last century, the archive has filled with solutions: a prayer to a Minoan goddess, a hymn, a call to arms, a calendar, an astronomical table, an index of place names. Each is plausible in isolation. Not one has been accepted by the field, and the reason is not that the codebreakers weren't clever. The reason is mathematical. To break an unknown script, you need one of two things. You need repetition, a large body of text so that the frequencies of signs can be measured, patterns found, guesses tested. Or you need an anchor to the outside, a bilingual text, like the Rosetta Stone, where a known language sits beside the unknown one and hands you the key. The Rosetta Stone is why we read hieroglyphs. Linear B fell because Michael Ventris had hundreds of tablets. plus a shrewd guess that the language underneath was Greek, which he could test against place names on Crete. Repetition and an anchor. That is the whole toolkit. The Phaistos Disc offers neither. Its entire corpus is itself. 241 signs. That is not a library, it is a sentence or two. Many of the 45 symbols appear only once or twice on the entire object. Statistically, they are ghosts. You cannot measure the frequency of a sign that occurs a single time. There is no second text in the same script. There is no bilingual. There is no known language you can confidently assume underneath, because we cannot even read Linear A, the script it was buried next to. So the honest verdict of the archive is this. The Phaistos Disc is not hard, it is underdetermined. There isn't enough information present in principle to select one reading over the thousands of others that fit equally well. A code with a sample size of 1 does not have a hidden answer waiting for a smarter algorithm. It has too many answers and no way to choose between them. But the record holds one more file, and it is uncomfortable. In 2008, on the 100th anniversary of the discovery, an American scholar and antiquities dealer named Jerome Eisenberg published an argument in Minerva magazine claiming that the Phaistos Disc is not ancient at all, that it is a forgery, that Luigi Pernier in 1908, working in the shadow of Arthur Evans's spectacular finds at Knossos, hungry for a discovery of his own, may have manufactured it. Eisenberg's case rests on features a forensic eye finds suspicious. The disc's edges are unusually clean and beveled for a Bronze Age object. It is, to this day, unique. No other stamped disc, no other example of these punches has ever been found anywhere. And the movable type technique is startlingly ahead of its era. A one-of-a-kind object with no archaeological siblings is exactly what a forgery looks like. Now, the archive must be scrupulous here. Eisenberg's forgery claim is a minority position. The scholarly consensus holds that the disc is genuine. It was recovered from a sealed archaeological deposit, alongside a Linear A tablet, by a working excavation. Several of its individual signs echo motifs found elsewhere in Minoan material culture. And no one has produced positive proof of fraud. There is a test that could settle it. Thermoluminescence dating can tell physically, roughly when clay was last fired, whether in the Bronze Age or in a workshop in 1908. The Heraclean Museum has declined to permit it, citing the fragility of the object, so the one measurement that could close the case has not been taken. The doubt is not resolved, it is preserved. Sit with the shape of that. The disc's defenders and its accuser both point to the same fact, its total uniqueness, and read it in opposite directions. To the mainstream, uniqueness is a wonder of the Bronze Age. To Eisenberg, uniqueness is the fingerprint of a fake. The object is silent enough to sustain both readings. Here is what the Phaistos Disc actually teaches, and it is not a mystery, it is a discipline. We are trained to believe that any lock will open if we are clever enough, if the computer is fast enough. The disc says otherwise. Some things are not encrypted, they are simply underdetermined, starved of the context that would give them meaning. Information, once its surrounding world is gone, does not always survive as a puzzle. Sometimes it survives only as a shape. Perhaps it was a prayer, pressed into clay and fired to make it permanent. Perhaps a game board, or a label, or a receipt for something long since eaten. Perhaps a scribe's single surviving experiment with a technology that went nowhere. We can build a case for each, we can prove none. The people who pressed these 45 signs into wet clay knew exactly what they meant. They are the last ones who ever will. The record remains. Draw your own conclusions. This was File No. 006. The archive stays open. File No. 007 goes to the loneliest place a script has ever been written. A speck of volcanic rock in the middle of the Pacific, and a talking wood an entire island may have forgotten how to read. Rongorongo, subscribe and keep the archive open.